So this week I thought I would speak a little differently on the subjects. Um, I know we're going a little out of order, but that's okay. So I provided a couple different things for this week. Um, we've got two different topics. One is family systems. We have an entire course on family systems. Um, it's required for clinical mental health counseling students. It's an elective for school counseling. Um, and I also cover the topic uh, in one class of theory. Um, so I don't want to be too redundant. I did provide uh, all of the notes from Dr. Samid for the entire book. Those notes include family systems and disability, but also all of the other chapters. And I also included my notes from theory class on family systems, just in case you don't have me for theories. You'll still get those notes. But tonight, or today, I wanted to talk mainly about disability, and you can read the chapter in the book on that. You can look at the notes from Dr. Samid's lifespan class. I do cover some disabilities in my DSM class, but what I thought might be helpful is for me to talk about my experience with disabilities, individuals with disabilities. So I thought I'd just take some time and share some of my experiences with individuals who have disabilities. So for 9 years, I worked every summer for 3 months for a camp called the Woodlands. It was a camp that was started for children suffering from spina bifida, and I knew one of the doctors at in Pittsburgh, who specialized in, he was a surgeon, he specialized in helping children with who were born with spina bifida. And he asked me if I could work at the camp. Now, the interesting thing is, yes, there are some current cases. However, the numbers have decreased for spina bifida significantly. And one of the wonderful things about this camp is that they expanded the camp to address any child with a disability. And of course, they continue to work with children with spina bifida. Then they expanded it again, and they worked with Children's Hospital with children who were, one camp was children suffering from sickle cell. Another camp was children who were undergoing treatment for some type of cancer. And over the years, Children's Hospital would send various groups of children that they were treating to this camp. But most of the summer, it was for children with disabilities. Now, I know disabilities is a broad term, It could be a cognitive disability. It could be a physical disability. It could be a disability somebody was born with or something happened to them. Could have been a disease, could have been an accident. There's a broad range of disabilities with multicultural significance as well. We do include disabilities in our multicultural counseling class. Now, I think what I loved most about this camp was the philosophy that, yes, we provided what the children needed as far as, the disability. We made sure that all of their physical, cognitive, emotional needs were met. But with that being said, the camp did not focus on disability. The whole goal of the camp was to allow the kids, to help the kids or facilitate an experience at summer camp just like any other child might experience during a summer camp. They had a combination of camps. They had camps for specific disabilities or with Children's Hospital. They also had camps for a special kind of camp, so a sports camp. A camp, they had a special name for it, but it was all about making crafts and things like that. They had a camp that was a music camp, and they had directors from major symphonies and musicians come to work with the kids. I had a spirituality center. We had a nature education program. We had, and of course, I was also a therapist, but, I tried, to fit in wherever they needed me. In fact, for 7 of those years, I helped with archery instruction. So think about a normal summer camp, one that any child might attend. They had a golf course. They had tents and a campfire and camping. They had an archery range. They had baseball. They had swimming. They had music, all kinds of, and a complete symphony, not just singing. They had all kinds of, normal, quote, normal fun activities. I want to be politically correct, appropriate when I say normal, but what any camp might have. A large cafeteria with skits, singing. If you could think of a camp program, they probably have it. The Spirituality Center was a round chapel. It was non-denominational, ecumenical. You didn't have to have any kind of faith. Everybody was welcome. But when you went into it, and you looked up, it was round, but there were large glass windows, and It was built into a hillside with trees all around it. So it was really designed to be part of the natural element there. One of the most unique things about it is that it had a labyrinth inlaid into the concrete floor, or a mosaic. And a labyrinth is not a maze. A maze, you can get lost, you can get stuck. A labyrinth is a meditational exercise. And this labyrinth was wide enough for wheelchairs, so that anybody could move through the meditation and use the labyrinth. A traditional labyrinth, people contemplate what is troubling them and maybe what is worrying them or whatever on the way in. And through the twists and turns, they might pass somebody going the other direction. They might be traveling alongside another person. And some people could walk. Some people had crutches. Some people had wheelchairs. Some people were laying down on a platform on wheels. Some people would call it a gurney. I don't know what the modern terminology for that is, but so we had a number of campers doing this at a time, and it kind of symbolized how we move through our lives and how we interact with other people. But and then in the center, there was an inlaid circle, and people would release anything that was worrying them or bothering them and kind of let go of that anxiety or stress. And they could stay there as long as they wanted. Some people prayed, some people meditated, some people just sat quietly. And then on their way back, they allowed positive energy to fill them. And that was just one of the many exercises. But I thought it was unique because the labyrinth was made for individuals with any kind of disability. The archery range, anybody could use the archery range. We had all kinds of accommodations for the campers if they could not hold the bow on their own. We had a railing where we attached the bow. We had all different, I guess you would call them strengths of bows, or poundage of the bow. We had a bow available no matter what the individual's strength was. And we had accommodations that they could hold on to the string, and accommodations that the arrow would balance on a special bow, and anybody could participate. And of course they kept shooting until they hit the target, and everybody cheered. So if you could think, I think one of the neatest things was just going camping. Many have never slept in a tent, or sang around a campfire, or roasted hot dogs or s'mores. So I want to share not only some of the things that we did, just like any counseling that we do, I believe that I, as a therapist, get just as much from the session as the client does. But you might not think about it that way right now. You might think, well, we're being trained to help clients. But if we're really present with the client, we both enter into that experience together, and we cannot leave that experience unchanged in some way. I have learned just as much about myself as my clients have learned about themselves throughout this process. And I would say the same thing working at the camp. In fact, I might have grown more than the campers. So I want to share a few personal observations from my experience there. The first one is simply that I did not think about disabilities or specific disabilities or disabilities in general in the same way as a focus after the first week of camp, like the very first week. So for 9 years, I thought about the campers, and the disability was just something else we had to deal with, just like any other camp with campers that had any issue. But the disabilities were no longer the focus. And when I would talk with campers, I think that's one of the things that they enjoyed. The reason why they would come back their entire lives until they were 18, and sometimes up until 21 if it was a special circumstance. So I was able to see, I guess you would call it kind of a generation of campers. So when I would talk with the campers, and they would share why they loved the camp so much, yes, some would say, well, we get to do all of these wonderful activities that we wouldn't get to do anywhere else. Sure, that was part of it. That's camp. But what I heard more was they were experiencing something similar to what I was, only at a much more personal level. Their disability was no longer a focus. Their being kids and having fun was the focus. Also, they felt that they didn't stand out in any way. They were just like everybody else for a change. Nobody looked at them, or stared at them, or asked if they, could help when they really didn't need it. And all of the other kids, even though their disabilities might have been different, they could relate to one another, where the focus was not the disability. They could relate to each other as kids. And I think that really the disabilities, the focus of a disability disappeared. And we also had, with some physical disabilities, sometimes cognitive disability accompanies that. I can tell you that these kids were the most caring, loving, and accepting kids I've ever met. They accepted each other, but they also accepted me. I'm even getting a little emotional talking about it. But I really did experience unconditional acceptance from these kids. Um, Now, the other thing I want to share is that just like any person going through their own human growth and development, these kids did as well. Um, they had relationships, breakups, they had heartache, they had loss, they grieved the loss of a loved one, or even the loss of a camper, um, because the mortality rate was higher. But whatever you might think of as far as the continuum of human growth and development, they experienced. Um, and and there was drama and emotion and joy, and the last night of every week-long camp there was a dance, for everybody. Didn't matter, wheelchair, crutches, anything. uh, Everybody danced. And at first, uh, if they were new to the camp, they were apprehensive about going to a dance, because that's something they pictured uh, people with fully functional legs doing. But as soon as they saw everybody dancing and moving around to the music and having fun and not thinking about their disability for that moment, I could see relief and happiness and a lot of fun. So, yeah, I think that's about it. Hopefully you found this interesting. And if you have any questions, please ask in your discussion board.